Hey guys, you are welcome to my YouTube channel and thanks to 1000 subscribers. I am so excited you guys love my content. 1000 people loves my content. It's such a big deal for me. Thank you guys for subscribing. If you're new to this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and recommend this YouTube channel to your friends, guys. It's going to go a long way. So in this video, I want to talk about fair value gap. Okay, I want to talk about fair value gap, how it works, the collaboration of it with the POI and every other things. Now, I'm going to give an explanation based on my experience with fair value gap, which is FVG. I'm going to give my own experience as regards synthetic trading. You know what works on CP might actually not work on synthetics. So I'm going to give an explanation based on my experience on synthetic here. Some people have actually said fair value gap is this, fair value gap is this. So I'm going to give an explanation based on my own experience. Okay, guys. So, like I said, we are going to be talking about fair value gap. Now, when we talk about fair value gap, it simply means the space or the void between three candles. Okay, between three candles, the void between three candles. Now, it simply means they are not balanced. We also call it imbalance. We call it imbalance. It simply means those candles are not balanced either with body or with wick. They are not balanced. It simply means they gave themselves gap. The three candles actually gave gap between themselves. Okay, so it's not that it's not balanced. When we say something is balanced, it simply means they did not give themselves space. The wick and the body actually are together. So that is what we call the fair value gap. It simply means we have a gap in between three candles. In between three candles. Let me show you an example of fair value gap. Okay. So we have this candle. This is one candle. This is one, two, three. Okay, so from this one, two, three, this is the end of the week of the first one, and this is the beginning of the week for the second one. This is the beginning of the week for the second one. You can see we had a gap. There is a space in between. There is a space in between, and that is what we call the fair valued gap. It simply means there is a gap. They are not balanced. Now, when we talk about what is balanced, see this, guys. When we talk about something being balanced, we have this. You can see this is balanced. These three candles, they are balanced. These three candles are balanced. Now, when we talk about fair value gap, see this also, guys. See this? Okay, then see this. This is the first. This is number one, number two, number three. You can see this, guys. So this is one. This is the end of the first one week. So this is the beginning of another week. You can see there was a gap in between. There was a gap in between the three candles. Now, when we talk about something being balanced, when we talk about something being balanced, see this, it is totally balanced. I mean, it did not actually give a gap in between. When we talk about gap also, guys, see this as a gap, our fair value gap. This is number one. This is our number one candle, number one. This is one. This is one. Then we have our two candle, then this is the third candle. So the wick of the third candle did not meet up with the previous candle, so you can see that we actually had a gap in between. The second candle is always the one giving the gap. Take note of this, guys. It is the second candle, the one in between those three candles, that we always mark out that this is the gap of the market. Now, what is the collaboration of FVG with POIs? FVG is one of the characteristics of picking out your valid POI. FVG is actually one of the major characteristics of picking out your valid POI, because you don't expect market to test a particular POI before moving and still expect it to come back to that same POI again. No, it simply means the market is not balanced at that area, and market seeks to balance every area of the market. Okay, market seeks to balance every area of the market, and that is why fair value gap is very important when you are picking out your POI. It is one of the major characteristics of picking out your POI. So I'm going to explain how you need to pick it out with your POI and how you need to trade it. Now, when you talk about picking out your POI, I always advise that you do that on the higher time frame, so that you can refine it to your lower time frame. And also, if you are picking out your FVG, if you want to be marking out your FVG, I am going to advise you that you use the higher time frame. Okay, guys, you use the higher time frame when it comes to marking out your fair valid gap. And also, the fair valid gap drags price to itself. The fair value gap drags price to itself so that it can be balanced. Sometimes the market balance 50% of the fair value gap and continue moving, and sometimes the market is going to fill up the imbalance and use the POI in between those imbalance and use the POI to continue the movement. Either ways, fair value gap is very important. Whenever you see it in the market, just mark it out. Just mark it out and then look for the next POI that is closer to it, and watch the market come back. And that is only when you already know your structure. If you don't have an understanding of the structure, you are going to fail woefully in using fair value gap. That is the truth, guys. So I'm going to be giving an explanation on that. Like I said earlier, you should use your higher time frame when it comes to picking out fair value gap, and when it comes to picking out your areas of POI, use the higher time frame. That is going to save you a whole lot of stress and confusion of the lower time frame. So let's take a look at this, guys. This is volatility 25 index, and I am on the 8 hours time frame. This is tradingview.deriv.com. I am on the 8 hours time frame. They offer 8 hours time frame, they offer 4 hours, 1 hour, 10 minutes. These are the time frames they offer, and 24 hours. You can't see the weekly time frame here. So, guys, when, like I said earlier, when you see your fair value gap in alignment with your structure, just mark it out. So on this volatility 25, this is a downtrend here. We had the last BMS, we had BMS to be here. We had our BMS to be here. Now, after the BMS, we know that we are going to be picking out our POI, yeah, and then our liquidity area and everything. So we have this is our POI here. So I'm going to be marking out my fair value gap. So I have this as my fair value gap. Okay. I said earlier that market might actually use 50% of the fair value gap, or it uses the POI closer to the fair value gap. So I have this, we have this POI, sorry, we have that as fair value gap. This is it. This is our first fair value gap. We have another fair value gap here. See this, guys. Okay, we have the fair value gap here. We have fair value gap here, and it is closer to our POI. So we have another fair value gap here. This is another fair value gap, guys. Now, see what the market did here, guys. The market could not get into our SC candle because the market has our fair value gap here. We've already marked out our fair value gap here. Market used that fair value gap to continue its movement to the downside. Remember, we are in a downtrend, okay? Remember, we are in a downtrend. Now, once you see that the market is closer to the fair value gap, all you just need to wait for is your confirmation to continue the movement. That is if market is going to use the fair value gap. Now, if market is not going to use the fair value gap, just mark out that fair value gap, mark out the POI closer to the fair value gap, and see what the market will do around that area. Fair value gap is one of the major characteristics of a valid POI. Take note of this, guys. Fair value gap is one of the major characteristics of a valid POI. Now, see this, guys. The market used the fair value gap and it continued a very good movement to the downside. I'm sure the lower time frame actually gave confirmation about this. You can see that we broke this low just because the market used the fair value gap. A lot of people will be like, market did not get to your POI. Why? What is happening? This, that. Let me let you know this. Market sometimes just use the fair value gap just to ensure that it doesn't get to the limit of traders. They make sure that they use the fair value gap just to ensure that they are not getting to your limit, so that they can skip the limit of traders. A lot of traders will actually put their sell limit here because obviously we are in a downtrend. So a lot of traders will say, okay, this is an SC candle, this is an SC candle, let me put my sell limit here. Once the market gets here, it continues to the downside. More reason I don't like using the limit. I just wait to see what the market is doing at the particular area, and once it gives me that confirmation around my fair value gap, I am going to enter the trade. So I am going to enter the trade. Okay, also check this, guys. Also check this, guys. We have the BMS to the downside. This is the BMS to the downside. And then the market came back to this area. We had our fair value gap here. This is the fair value gap. This fair value gap is really much. The fair value gap is really much here. So I am actually expecting the market to fill it up. I am expecting market to fill it up. And also this is our POI. This is our order block. This is our order block that we have here. We have our order block here. The market filled up the fair value gap because obviously it is a very large fair value gap. So I am expecting the market to fill it up and use the next POI as a continuation. Now see this, guys. See how market respected the fair value gap and respected that POI. Also see this. Check out this, guys. And the internal structure, same thing happened. In the internal structure, we had this. This is our BMS. That's an internal structure. Take note of that, guys. So we had our fair value gap here. This is our fair value gap. So sometimes you will notice that the market is just going to use the fair value gap and continue to the downside, and you keep wondering why the market did not actually get to your POI. See what the market used here. Market used 50% of the fair value gap to continue to the downside. 50% of that area, it used it in continuing to the downside. Now, you will mark out your other block as this. And you see the market did not get to the other block. The market did not get to our other block. Why? Because it used the fair value gap as a continuation. Oh my God. As a continuation to the downside. See this, guys. This is our major order block. This is our order block here. And market did not even enter the order block. Why? Because we had our fair value gap. The market used 50% of it as a continuation to the downside. And that is how you keep marking in alignment with your structure. Make sure it is in alignment with your structure, guys. Don't just mark out this area. You can see we are in a downtrend, and then you are marking out this area that, okay, I am expecting the market to come back to this fair value gap and use and use 50% of it as a continuation. I'm going to buy, or I'm going to do a very short buy and then look for sale. No, it will fail you if you do something like that. Make sure it's in alignment with your structure so that you will be able to mark out the POI closer. You'll be able to mark the POI closer to your fair value gap. Also see these, guys. Market is the fair value gap that we had here. See this. Market could not get to. Market did not have that strength to come back into our SC candle, and we just saw that sweet fair value gap. And see what the market did. The market used the fair value gap to continue to the upside, and you can see this, guy. This is a very sweet buy. A lot of people will just mark out this area. See this? Just mark out this area. Since we've had a BMS, so I'm going to be waiting for the market to use this other block. No. Once you see this, once you see your structure, the first thing, even before you pick out your POI, is where is our fair value gap? Where do we have our fair value gap? How do I trade this? Is this going to be useful for me? Okay, when market gets here and it gives me a confirmation inside my fair value gap, I'm going to give it a trial to buy or to sell. So mark out mark out your fair value gap, then you can start marking out your POI. Okay, this is the next POI closer to hit. Okay, market might actually come and use 50% of my fair value gap in continuation of my structure. So that is it, guys. I hope you've learned something new, and I hope you've learned something useful. Give me a thumbs up, comment in the comment section if you love this video.